Anishtamishtam mishram cha trividam karmanah phalam bhavatya tyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit. The 12th Shloka of the 18th chapter is a summary shloka for the first segment of the 18th chapter. The first segment being clarification on the principle of renunciation. What is sannyasa? What is tyaga? What is the significance of the same in our journey towards fulfilling our life's mission? Anishtam, ishtam, mishram cha trividham karmanah phalam bhavatya tyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit. This shloka gives us the very essence of the problem and the solution. It states the problem, it also gives us the solution. Krishna summarizes Karma Yoga in this very shloka. Before summarizing Karma Yoga, he gives the reason as to why Karma Yoga needs to be practiced. So this shloka, in a way, captures the very essence of the cycle of samsara, which is the problem. While capturing the problem, which is the cycle of samsara, he also talks about what is the exit out of this cycle. So therefore, Krishna uses the opportunity to not only summarize his views on the principle of sannyasa and tyaga, he also clarifies to Arjuna on the principle of karma yoga and how when karma yoga is practiced, one qualifies for bhakti, and which then is the means to mukti. Krishna in the shloka talks about the transmigration of the soul, the journey of the soul. We need to understand life and death are neither the beginning nor the end. They are all milestones in the journey of the Atman. Krishna talks about how the Atman is on a journey which is which when we ask this question, what is the beginning of the journey? All of us are very interested to know the beginning. The beginning is unknown, but the end is known. If we start analyzing the beginning, we cannot come to any conclusion. But if we start analyzing how to end, then we can see the way out of this journey. Krishna talks about transmigration of the soul many times throughout the Gita. The anchor shloka which captures the very essence of transmigration, where Krishna talks about how the results of the action are responsible for determining the nature of the next birth. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grannati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. What a wonderful shloka. Through a very simple analogy, Krishna gives us the profound truth. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. navani grinnati naroparani. Vihaya. Vihaya is giving up. Jirnani. Jirnani is getting worn out, becoming useless. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grinnati naroparani. Krishna takes up an example which we can relate to very easily. Just like how when the dress that we wear becomes worn out, we throw it and then we acquire a new dress. Similarly, tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. In a similar fashion, the Atman, as soon as the sharira gets worn out, jirnani, worn out, old, useless. The utility of the body, once it ends, the Atman throws it, gives it up, and moves on to take a new body. The analogy is so very beautiful because we can very easily relate and understand the certain fundamental truths of transmigration. Just like how I and my dress are distinct and different. I and my body are distinct and different. The dress is very important, but the relationship with the dress is not permanent. It's only temporary. I may like my dress, I may fall in love with it, but then it will not last long. After a few years, the same dress which I loved, I may not love it enough as it starts getting worn out. When grey hair starts coming in, we become very uncomfortable. The same body which we all loved, it's just a matter of time before we start getting uncomfortable with the same. Not knowing, not realizing that this relationship with this body is only temporary. Just like how the dress that we wear has a purpose. For every occasion there is a dress. We all know about it very clearly. When we come to satsang for a puja, the dress is different. When we go to a party, the dress is different. When we go to work, the dress is different. When we are at home, the dress is different. The kind of work that we do, depending on the kind of work, the dress changes. Today, depending on the profession, also dress changes. A doctor wears a white coat. A lawyer wears a black coat. So the nature of work, the kind of duty, the kind of actions, depending on the weather, the dress changes. Therefore, there is a purpose. We understand by taking this analogy of a dress, we get to understand that there is a purpose for a dress. It's not just we randomly acquire a dress. If I travel to a place which is going to snow in winter, I will go and buy winter clothing. There is a purpose. Similarly, there is a purpose for the Atman acquiring a Sharira. There is a purpose. We need to understand what is this purpose. Why the Atman has acquired a particular configuration, a particular embodiment, depending on the nature of actions that are to be performed. Therefore, the analogy helps us to realize that there is a relationship between my desire and the dress I wear. There is a relationship between my desires and the body that the Atman wears. We can say that we are dressed by our desires and we are also dressed for our desires. Why we are dressed by our desires? Obviously, when we take the example of the dress, it is our own desires, our likes and dislikes, which will determine the dress that we pick up. I may walk into a shop and I may pick up completely a different kind of a dress, and you may do something different. Our own likes and dislikes, our desires determine the type of dress that we pick up. Similarly, the desires accumulated by the Atman determines the type of body that it acquires. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha, Krishna says. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. We saw that the desire that's dominant at the time of death determines what happens next. But what is dominant at the time of death is determined by the dominant desires throughout one's life. So therefore, it is important to understand that there is a relationship between our desires and our body. So therefore, we are dressed by our desires. At the same time, we are also dressed for our desires. Our body is not only product of our desires, the kind of body that we acquire also is used as a vehicle to exhaust our desires. Therefore, we are dressed for our desires, depending on the nature of my desires, depending on the nature of my vasanas. The Atman acquires an appropriate body which can exhaust the kind of vasanas, the prarabdha. Now, we have discussed this before. There are three kinds of karma: sanchita, prarabdha, agami karma. Sanchita is the total, net total accumulated karmas. Prarabdha is that small portion of sanchita which is ready to fructify. Sanchita is like the seeds that I have accumulated, the storage, the storehouse of seeds. Every seed is basically latent desire. Vasanas are seeds for desires. Sanchita is the storehouse of all the accumulated vasanas over several lifetimes. A small part of that is prarabdha, which is ready to the seed that is ready to blossom and grow into the tree for that current lifetime. So prarabdha determines the nature of the body that I acquire in this lifetime. Now, the moment we say karma, karma phala and karma vasana both have to be considered, because karma can mean action, karma can mean result. The result is twofold: karma vasana and karma phala. See the words that are used: phala, vasana. The consequence, the effect of every action is twofold. One is called the fruit, the other is called the fragrance. Vasana is fragrance, karma phala is the fruit. So when every time an action is performed, it leaves behind an impression in the mind. Just like how a flower leaves behind impression. You touch a flower, you touch a perfume, it leaves behind an impression, which is the fragrance. Similarly, every action leaves behind a fragrance in the mind, which is the vasana. And every action results in a fruit. Krishna is calling this anishtam, ishtam, mishram. Now, we are dressed by our desires. We are dressed for our desires. Therefore, there is a strong relationship between all the desires that we have accumulated and the body that we acquire from one life to the other. What is important here to realize is that the attachment that we develop, the attachments that we cultivate with various material objects also continue from one life to the other in the form of our vasanas and the desires. Now, the attachments in the mind continue, but the actual physical attachments will not continue. If we don't give up voluntarily our material possessions, we will be forced to give them up involuntarily. This is the fact of life. Dhritarashtra was counseled by Vidura. Dhritarashtra was counseled by Bhishma. Dhritarashtra was counseled by Krishna himself. But Dhritarashtra could not give up his material possessions. But then he was forced to give them up eventually. Now, the vasanas that we carry from one life to the other determine the nature of the body that we take from one life after the other. That is why Krishna gives that example of the dress. Now here, Krishna talks about how in this journey, the karma, depending on the karma, there are three kinds of karma phalas, he says. Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram. Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram cha trividham karmana phalam. What is Anishtha? Anishtha is, that is unpleasant. Anishta, which is undesired. Anishtha, which is disliked, unwanted. Anishtam is that experience, which is painful. Any experience which is painful is Anishta. Ishtam, pleasant, desirable, something which we like. Any experience which brings joy. Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram. Mishram is admixture, a mixture of pain and pleasure, alternating all the time. Krishna says these are three kinds of karma phala. Three kinds of karma phala for one who is not a tyagi. Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram cha trividam karmana phalam bhavatya tyaginam pretya. Bhavati atyaginam pretya. These three kinds of fruits, karma phalas, accrue to the one who is not a tyagi. Pretya, he says. Pretya can be translated as after death. So which means the fruits, karma phala, accrue even after death. But immediately one can ask, then what happens within this lifetime? Pretya not only means after death, pretya means after the performance of action. Because when we say karma phala, the fruit of an action, visible or invisible, can be immediate or can be later. A karma phala, the fruit can be experienced within this current lifetime, or it can also be accumulated and can be experienced beyond this current lifetime as well. So Krishna says here that fruits of an action accrue to one who is atyagi, one who is not a renouncer, one who has performed kamya karma all throughout one's life. When we perform kamya karma, desire prompted actions, then we accrue both karma phala and karma vasana. That is the reason why Krishna prescribes karma yoga. Karma yoga is essentially to perform actions in such a way that we neither accrue karma phala nor accumulate karma vasanas. Krishna, when he talks about karma yoga, he talks about performing karma yoga as his agnya. He talks about performing karma yoga for our prajna. He talks performing karma yoga as yajna, and he also talks us to perform karma yoga for the sarvajna. Between second chapter, third chapter and fourth chapter, we see how Krishna talks about karma yoga to be performed for 4 reasons: agnya, prajna, yajna, sarvajna. Karma yoga is agnya, his command. He commands Arjuna. You have to perform karma. There is no escaping. You cannot escape. Karma is inescapable. You better perform karma perform the same action as a vehicle for liberation. The same action can be binding, the same action can be liberating. So therefore, perform your action. You cannot escape action. Karma yoga for prajna. Prajna for a pure mind. Only by performing karma yoga, one can purify one's mind. The mind is filled with impurities. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryas. Only by performing karma yoga, actions without attachment to results, the mind can be purified. Karma yoga, karma as yajna. To be in harmony with oneself and with the world around. Karma yoga is to be in harmony, to be aligned with the universal order. This entire universe, Bhagavan has created it, and this universe is like a musical orchestra, in harmony all the time. Only the humans have the will to create cacophony. Only the humans have the will to be misaligned with this harmony. Only the human beings are, by design, when they are body conscious, are misaligned with this harmony. So therefore, when karma is performed as yajna, there is harmony with the universal order. And Krishna also says, karma yoga has to be performed for the sake of the Sarvajna, for the sake of Krishna. Every karma has to be performed as an offering to him, as a service to him, to please him. Only then one can stop the accrual of karma phala and stop accumulation of karma vasanas. Krishna here, therefore, in the first part of the 12th shloka, Krishna talks about the problem. He states the problem. What is the problem? Anishtam ishtam mishram cha trividham karmana palam bhavatyattyaginam pretya. For those who do not practice renunciation, they are stuck in the cycle of samsara. They continue to be in the cycle of samsara. They continue to experience the three kinds of karma phala. Now Krishna separates them out also to clarify. What is the clarification Krishna is providing here? Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino arjuna maupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha. Even if one aspires to go to higher lokas, going to higher lokas is not an answer to escape samsara. Even if one goes to higher lokas, one is continue to be in the cycle of samsara. Going to higher loka is not escape from samsara, it is continuance of samsara. Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha. Right from Brahma Satya Loka to all the lokas in the Brahmanda, even if the Atman is traversing across all these lokas, as the Atma accumulates punya karma, it rises up to higher lokas, acquires divine bodies, and it goes up in terms of the capabilities to enjoy pleasures, more and more pleasures. That is why anishtam, karma pala. When the Atman acquires a body where it can experience pleasure for a long time. Example being Swarga pala. When the Atman goes to Swarga, where the Atman acquiring divine bodies, celestial bodies, can continue to experience pleasure for a long time. What is the difference between a human being and a higher being? The difference essentially is the capability of the body to continue to experience pleasures for a long period of time. When we take our own bodies, we do not have the capability to experience pleasure for a long time. Our pleasures are all fleeting in nature. We work towards something, hoping to experience happiness, and then eventually the pleasure lasts for a few seconds. Because the body by design is not capable. The body by design is not capable to experience pleasure continuously. That is why it is pleasure, it is not happiness. Bodily pleasure is short-lived, it's fleeting. That is by design. Now, anishtam here, when Krishna says, as karma pala, when he divides the karma pala into 3 categories, anishta here, ishta here, we are talking about ishta. Ishta here is what? That which is pleasurable, that which is pleasant, that which is desired. We all desire long-lasting pleasure, and long-lasting pleasure is possible when the Atman goes up to higher lokas. But then Krishna has already warned, Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. Wherever the Atman goes, eventually it has to come back. The body may last, instead of 100 years, it may last maybe 100,000 years. It's like an insect comparing itself with a human being. An insect which can live for possibly a minute will look at a human being and say, the human being is living forever, eternal. The human being is looking at a tortoise which lives for 400 years and says, the tortoise is living eternal. Now, when we look at the Devatas, their lifespan runs into thousands and thousands of years, but they too have a lifespan. There is an expiry date for every body that is made up of Prakriti. There is an expiry date. So Ishtam here, that which is desirable, that which is pleasant, Krishna says this karma phala is essentially experiencing pleasures, but that is also short-lived. Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartino Arjuna. Anishtam. What is anishta? That which is not desirable, unpleasant. Ishta is when one accumulates punya karma. When one accumulates punya karma, then one gets a body suitable to experience punya, experience pleasures. But anishta is exactly the opposite. When one accumulates papa karma, if the prarabdha karma has a bulk of papa, then the body that the Atman acquires will be in such a way that it experiences papa karma, and the body will also, that is why I said dressed by desires, dressed for desires. By the nature of the body will be determined by the papa karma, and the kind of a body that is acquired is also like a tool to experience those papa karmas, to experience those really severe pains, sufferings. Krishna here is talking about hellish regions, descending into lower births. And that too is fleeting, that too is temporary. But then it's alternating all the time. Mishram. So he's talked about Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram. Mishra, admixture. Typically when there's an admixture of punya and papa, when the papa karmas are more, the Atman is forced to take lower births in lower regions. When the punya karma is more, the Atman has the opportunity to go up to higher lokas, higher births. But when there is a good mix of punya and papa karma, then, which is Mishra, then the Atman takes typically human birth. So here Krishna is talking about Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram is talking about the Atman acquiring bodies and going to either higher lokas or lower lokas, or staying here within the bhuloka as humans. But he's saying this is for the atyagis. This is the result of performing karma driven by desires. Kamya karma leads. Bhavatya tyaginam pretya natu sanyasinam kvachit. Whereas here Arjuna, for the sannyasi, for the tyagi, there is no such problem. Because the tyagi has found the solution to this problem. The solution to this problem of getting stuck in the cycle of samsara. The cycle of samsara, which is vasanas, Vasanas giving birth to desires, desires giving birth to agitations in the mind, agitations in the mind driving actions, actions accumulating more vasanas. The cycle goes on and on and on. A tyagi, a sannyasi, has found the solution to this problem. And what is the solution to this problem? When every karma is founded in the principle of renunciation. This is what he has been explaining in the last 11 shlokas. Tyaga, sannyasa, which is one and the same. When that becomes the foundation. Natu sannyasinam kvachit. For the sannyasi, all these three different kinds of karma phalas do not accrue. Krishna is categorical here. Do not accrue at all. Which means, if there is no accrual of karma phalas, if there is no accumulation of karma vasanas, then there is an exit out of samsara. Krishna here is echoing how he concluded this message in the 9th chapter. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. A very beautiful and very simple formula Krishna gives. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Yat karoshi. Hey Arjuna, whatever you do, yat karoshi, whatever physical actions that you do, yat karoshi, yadashnasi, whatever you eat, yat juhosi, dadasi, the kind of yajnas that you perform, whatever yajna that you perform, whatever austerities you perform, tapasyasi, whatever charity you perform, all of that, tat kurushva madarpanam. He says, offer all of that to me, hey Arjuna, all your problems are solved. The solution to all your problems, hey Arjuna, is just to offer everything that you do. So essentially, physical activity, eating, yajna, dana, tapa. So he has more or less covered everything. He's covered everything that we do. He says, everything that you do, make an offering to me. Offer it to me. Now, what is Krishna trying to say here? When we offer everything that we do and the result of everything that we do, we also in that process liberate ourselves from our desire to experience the result. This is where we are bringing that disconnect between karma phala and us. When we offer it to Krishna, we are essentially liberating ourselves in the process of the craving to experience that. And when we stop that craving for experiencing the result, we stop accumulating the karma phalas. Now, when Krishna talks about offering everything to him, we may also say, yes, we also offer everything to him. But if we really examine what we offer, we only offer leftovers to him. It may sound very uncomfortable, but we are only offering leftovers. Now, I'm not talking about the prasad. Obviously, prasad, definitely we don't offer leftovers. But if we really look at the offering of our thoughts, offering of our deeds, Krishna gets our leftovers. Because we are focused on everything, doing so many things, and in the scheme of things, we accommodate him, but we only accommodate him. So therefore, Krishna here is talking about how to move beyond accommodation. This is the question that all of us have. We all, in one way or the other, accommodate him. But then how do we move beyond offering just leftovers to him? Krishna gives us 3 steps. When he says, Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasi yat, tat tapasyasi kaunteya, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva darpanam. The 3 steps, simple steps Krishna gives. The first step, when he says, offer everything to me, all your actions, whatever you do to me, what Krishna is talking about is slowly and steadily let Krishna permeate within you. There is an entry point that we need to give Krishna. Open the door. Just open the door so Krishna can permeate, he can enter. Which means I do all my actions, but somehow I also kind of accommodate him. He comes into the scheme. But what he says is once Krishna permeates, he also starts to pervade. And as he starts pervading, then slowly the priorities keep changing. Then the step 2 is I do the same actions, but now Krishna becomes primary. The duty that I perform becomes secondary, which means the thought of offering to Krishna will come first. In step 1, the thought of offering to Krishna comes secondary. The duty that I perform is primary. Now step 2, the reversal happens, because now Krishna has started to pervade. He slowly he starts to occupy our hearts and our minds. This is the beauty. Once we open the door, he will start doing the magic. So once the pervasion happens, then Krishna becomes the primary and the duty, the action to be performed becomes secondary. And then the third step is possession. He not only pervades, eventually he possesses us. And when Krishna possesses us, he becomes the be-all and end-all of everything. Now, when that happens, Krishna says, Shubha Shubhapalairyevam Mokshase Karmabandhanaihi. Shubha Shubhapalairyevam Mokshase Karmabandhanaihi. Sanyāsa Yoga Yuktātma. Sanyāsa Yoga Yuktātma. Vimukto Mam Upaishyasi, he says. Sanyāsa Yoga Yuktātma. See the way Krishna uses the terms here. Sanyāsa is disconnection. Yoga is connection. Sannyasa is disconnection. Yoga is connection. Now, Krishna brings both of them together. He says Sannyasa Yoga Vimuktatma, Yuktatma, which means disconnecting from the world, connecting with Krishna. Renunciation, Sannyasa Yoga, is renouncing the world and attaching to Krishna. Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma. Vimukto mam upaishyasi. Vimukto mam upaishyasi. He gets freedom. Getting freedom from the world is important, but getting freedom from the world has only one purpose. Getting freedom is to realize our slavery to Krishna, to serve him. So therefore attaining him, mamupetya tu kaunteya. He says, Abrahma bhuvanan lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So the solution to the problem of escaping the cycle of samsara is mamupetya tu kaunteya. Krishna says, when you attain me, nacha punaravartate, nacha punaravartate. There is no coming back into the cycle of samsara. So Krishna here therefore says, Anishtam, Ishtam, Mishram cha Trividham Karmana Palam. Bhavati Atyaginam Pretya Natu Sanyasinam Kvachit. Natu Sanyasinam Kvachit. Hey Arjuna, for the sannyasi is one who has offered his heart to Krishna. You know, our heart, this is when Krishna talks about the 3 steps of how to offer, we may ask this question, you know, offering ourselves to Krishna is not easy, but when we start to offer what is there in our heart, over a period of time, we will end up also offering our heart. Step 1 is to at least start offering something in our heart. Eventually, by offering that which is there in my heart, I will progress towards offering my heart to Krishna. When we say we offer to Krishna, we are not offering the material results to Krishna. Krishna does not need our material experiences. When we say we are offering everything to Krishna, what is the purpose of offering to Krishna? The purpose is, unless we stay constantly connected with Krishna, we cannot exit the cycle. Krishna earlier talks about remembrance, constant remembrance being the need, being the prerequisite to attain him. So how do we constantly remember him? constant remembrance is only possible when I offer everything to him. So there is a relationship between offering what I do and constant remembrance. How? When I love somebody, in that process I offer to the beloved. So therefore, the offering that I make to someone is only because I love someone. So when I offer something to Krishna, which means I'm cultivating love, I'm cultivating bhakti, I'm cultivating constant remembrance. It is not that I'm offering the experiences to Krishna. I'm not offering, Krishna does not need my experiences. Krishna does not need my material rewards. When I say I'm offering to Krishna, I'm doing two things. I am liberating myself of the need to experience my result because I've already offered. So I am not attached to the result anymore. Number two, in the process of offering the same, my remembrance grows. I stay connected with him because Krishna in the 15th chapter talks about how we get disconnected from him. We stay completely disconnected when we are operating through our mind and the senses and we are focused outward towards the world. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jivabhutas sanatanaha. He says, hey Arjuna, every jivatma is an amsha, is a part. Manashastani indriyani prakritistani kashtati. The part which is inseparable from the whole, when it operates through the mind and the senses, starts to believe that it is separate. When it stays disconnected, it remains very incomplete. There is no satisfaction. There is no happiness. Only when it realizes the connectedness, the inseparability, then there is happiness. Then there is contentment. Then there is completeness. So in a way, every action that we do, the action that we do is for the sake of feeling complete. Because there is always the lack, there is some lack within us, that sense of incompleteness all the time. So every action that I do an action in order to possess something, thinking that that will make me complete. Now, just by doing actions for the sake of possessing something is not going to bring me completeness as long as I stay disconnected from Krishna. Now, the moment I realize that I am ever connected with him, I am a part, he is the whole. And the role of the part is to serve the whole. And in serving the whole lies true happiness. In serving the whole lies real bliss. That is when I realize that whatever I do, when I say I offer to Krishna, which means I not only liberate myself from the attachment to the result, I also connect to Krishna and stay connected, remembering him all the time. So this is the only way that I can constantly remember him, constantly stay connected with him, cultivate that bhakti, and in that process eventually exit out of the life of samsara. So Krishna here in the 12th shloka, he basically gives the solution and the problem and thus concludes, hey Arjuna, you wanted to know the difference between a tyagi and a sannyasi. Now you know that both are one and the same. And you also wanted to know whether tyaga means walking away from life and living. And Krishna says it is not. You can very much lead your life wherever you are, continue to do whatever duties that you are performing, but on the foundation of tyaga, you can transform everything that you do from binding to liberating. And tyaga, he also talked about 3 types of tyaga, and he says only the sattvika tyaga is that tyaga which is liberating in nature. So Krishna with 12 shlokas addresses the topic of sannyasa and tyaga, and from the 13th shloka onwards he takes up analysis of action, which we will look into in the coming sessions. Sarvam Shri Krishna.